Well, let's get back.
Well, let's see if they've moved 30 paces towards the forest by now.
All right, you make your way back towards the camp, and it's still a little bit of a madhouse, but most of the servants, people like just carrying around crap, have cleared out to various tents, and people are actually starting to get organized because the hunt starts at noon when the sun is at the highest point, and it's getting there. And there's maybe 2 hours or an hour and a half before then. And you do notice already, though, notable amounts of individuals who look like either scouts or early people whose job is just to act as spotters have already started heading into the forest in small groups from time to time.
Well, you boys go and sign us up, and I will begin the scout.
Sounds good to me.
I'll go with you.
And how do you anticipate? You know what? Forget it. You can deal with your own problems.
And how are you finding us again in this?
I'll be waiting at the tree edge. I won't go far.
Of the entire forest?
I will point yonder to a specific tree and say, I will be there. Good enough?
Thank you. Yes, that's good enough. That's tall enough for me to see.
Indeed.
I will roll
I'll
my
be
eyes.
there. You won't miss it.
Thanks, slightly threatening friend.
All right,
Lightly.
you make your way into the camp and get back to the derelict building, and the large man is still sitting in um, his groaning wooden chair that he seems to place more faith in than he probably should. And he looks up as the two of you approach Vertstadt and Wrist.
Right. So there's been an amendment to the plan here, and I will present the piece of paper. We have been patronized by Lord Hugo Cross, as you can see.
He takes it and he looks it over very carefully, and he even pulls out like a little additional magnified lens, just a little piece of glass that he holds in his hand, looks at the paper, and then he nods and reaches over to make some marks on a paper that has a lot of different columns scritched into it, and then he also scribbles down on a ledger in front of him, and then he takes the paper and he grabs a little thing of wax, pours it on the paper, and stamps it very hard, and sort of lets it sit for a moment and looks up and he goes, and what is the name of the selected champion?
It's just me and Wrist together, right?
You need to select an individual. It doesn't matter.
No, I know. It's just me and Wrist.
Yeah, the two of you are just standing there.
Okay. So I will say it will be me, Verstadt, and I will spell it out.
He kind of looks you up and down and lets out another but then proceeds to start.
Before we make that official, the hide needs to be intact, correct? You did mention hide on display.
He nods somewhat and says, the beast needs to be recognizable if you're to collect the bounty, yes. It needs to be killed by arrow or blade. No bombs. If it's a gun, it needs to not shoot incredibly large rounds. The beast needs to be intact. No ogres.
That is fine. Vertstadt, I know you are very renowned for your great power and prowess, but it seems that you are not quite capable of being the champion in this instance.
Of course, Master Wrist. Who would you nominate as the champion?
Considering I am not worthy, and I will wink to the man, and you and Verve are both inclined to weaponry that is outside the bounds of a noble, honorable tradition, I believe our friend Roland will have to be the champion.
Very well. That's a good idea, I suppose.
He frowns pretty heavily at this exchange in front of him and just sort of mutters under his breath as he writes down Roland's name.
Terribly sorry about that.
And as he leans back up, he says, "There, you're entered. The hunt begins for the nobles." And he looks over at a dwarf-made timepiece next to him that's ticking away silently. And he says, "The nobles will be leaving any minute now. The hunt for everyone else starts at at noon when the sun reaches its zenith."
I see. And as we are patronized by a noble, we obviously leave with the noble group, correct?
He shakes his head and says, "No, the noble needs to be present for the early leave."
I see. Now, also, real quick, when you said the beast needs to be recognized, do you mean recognized as a stag? What if the beast turns out to not be a stag?
He pauses and says, "That will be left as a matter for the games master to decide in the High Lodge. But we do know that the beast has an albino coat."
Very well, that's good to know. The Games Master, huh? That's quite the lofty title.
'Cause it is a lofty personage, and I will start tugging at Vertstat's sleeve towards the entrance.
Yeah, the man in front of you looks mildly insulted on behalf of his compatriot.
Yes, as we all know, Game Master is the most high title there can be.
God frowns. All right, you make your way out. Verve, did you want to go particularly far into the forest, or what was your goal?
Well, so here was my first thing I wanted to do. Scanning from the clearing towards the forest, kind of, I wanted to think, if I was this creature, where likely would I be? If I don't get anything from that, then yeah, I'm going to have to go in and do some in-depth scouting.
If you were
Or
like
I
a
can
regular stag?
stop you and give you some crucial information that I have.
Well, if you
pick that
have
one.
that.
I mean, feel free to speak up at any time.
Well, I'm doing that right now, but I don't know how to word the information I know.
Figure it out.
Since all you told me is that I know it, not what it actually is.
Oh, well, here, I could tell you that right now.
Alright, so as this one is eyeing the tree line, looking out, I'm just gonna quickly elbow her side.
I will. Yes.
Well, we won't have to do much looking here, because I know where it's been running around. Pretty recently, too.
What do you mean you already know?
You know the survivors that came back from encountering this thing? Some people lived.
Oh, I wish I
3
had known.
miles north.
I wish I
There's
had
a-
known this information sooner.
I wanted to make sure it didn't get out there too much.
3 miles
Makes sense.
north.
3 miles north. It's on a game trail that goes up toward the mountains. One of the more dangerous bits. Small stream that runs through there, and there's a bunch of rocks that look like that have birds painted on them, I think. Painted or etched. Don't remember that part in particular.
I will look at you quizzically, and I will nod. Well, let's go down to the tree and wait then.
All right, you don't have to wait long before you see Vertstat and Risk come walking out of camp.
Okay, we approach Verve and Roland.
Well, with my awesome and impeccable skills at scouting, I know exactly where to go.
Well, that's fantastic. We also
I-
have a champion, and I will nod towards Roland.
Well, let's get started then. I take out my axe and I'm just gonna hold it basically close to the head while we walk.
I'm assuming you mean hold it close to the axe head, not hold the axe close to your head.
Correct. That's what I mean.
Just making sure.
All right. Finding north, I will head that way.
I will say to Verve real quick before we leave. Are you sure we should go now and not wait for the rest of the hunt?
I didn't know I needed to.
Oh, right. I should have told you. The nobles hunt begins almost, well, right about now. And the other hunt, I guess, which we are a part of, begins in about a couple hours.
Does this include scouts?
And you think they're going to check every single party to make sure which category they're in?
Roland has a point.
I say we go now.
I agree.
You do hear a horn being blared, and the sounds of dogs barking gets a lot louder as most people start scattering off into the forest immediately over here, like just past the hunting lodge. Everyone starts scattering out pretty much every direction from south to vaguely north, but almost all of them heading out west.
How about we go a little ways east first, then north?
East is
sound good?
towards town.
I sort of hold up a few fingers. Northeast, then north, then.
I will roll my eyes and...
Away from here.
Yes, I get it. And I will head off into the forest.
Lead the way, champion. Ben, your thing is lighting up, but I can't hear your voice.
I'm back from my brief excursion.
All right. Everybody here?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Gold?
Yep.
Okay. So, y'all head into the northern forest, and now we can switch to one of my lovely travel maps.
So, I was trying to ask everyone
gosh,
leaving
that's pixelated.
for this.
Is everyone leaving for the hunt?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
yes, people have started going. But, I mean,
Yeah.
technically it's the noble group, but if y'all want, you can go ahead and go. There may be vague consequences, maybe not.
Yeah. Rist would vote his, I think we should not break the rules so that they have a reason to take away 500 crowns. Was what I was trying to say before my mic cut off.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, Versailles would agree with that.
So we have a tie.
I think about 500 gold crowns and I change my answer.
Okay. All right.
Same.
So, all right, y'all hang around for about another hour and a half, and another much shorter and less interesting series of trumpet blasts goes out from the camp, signifying that everyone else can participate, and a notably smaller, stealthier, and less pomp and circumstance group of set of groups start heading into the forest. Some of them even going cutting across the fields to the east.
I will wave to whoever blew the trumpet in the back and shout out that I'll come back, giving them great favor. Because mainly I want them to remember the halfling was here when this set was trumpeted.
Okay. He gives you a really perplexed look from quite a distance, but it works.
See, they didn't check it fucking all.
Yeah, but they will if we win. And then they'll
Better
get
just
someone
be
to say,
safe.
"Oh yeah, I saw them off in the woods. Definitely during the noble part." The cheaters don't deserve anything.
Hopefully they don't say that anyways.
Well, they can, but we've got witnesses now.
Excellent.
All right, you lot head in.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right, you head into the Imperial Forest. This extension of the Reikwald, which, of course, after you get about good 15 to 30 minutes in, nature takes over and it's dreary and dark and not welcoming to men, as most forests tend to be in this part of the world. But nonetheless, you start making good headway leading up to the north. So, do you know... Keep in mind what you'll be looking for before you make decisions about how you want to try and get there.
Okay. So I will say to Roland, so, Sir Champion, what exactly are we looking for out here in the northeast?
Northeast?
We're going north now. If no one else, like, if everyone was following me, I would have shifted back north.
Just north? Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, how do you have... I need a navigation check.
Oh, that way's north.
Oh yeah, do you have some nonsense? Yes, you do. You have orientation.
So I will say then, do we know what we're looking for when we're headed north?
So wrist, after this check, you will need to actually roll for it. But if you pass with any success levels, you'll know. Until nighttime, once the stars are out, you won't have to check anymore.
Okay.
Anyway,
I assume I can do
continue.
it now because the sun is at noon.
Yes. So I'll let you get away with this first one.
Right, that way's north. What are we looking for? Some trail? Some big thing in the woods?
Good question.
A game trail that heads up to the mountains.
Okay, Verve, you know what that looks like?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Indeed.
Yeah, she scouted it out.
Did you, Verve?
Well, she said she did.
All the way.
be all-
That's true. That's true. She did.
All right, you start making your way north. You make it about 2 miles north of where you started. Wrist, take your first actual orientation check. Or navigation. And if
Alright,
anybody
does
else
anyone
has
else?
navigation trained, they can either take it and he can assist, or vice versa.
Nope.
Do not have it.
No, I don't.
Okay, I'm going to say it'd be better for someone else to make this check.
Yeah, probably.
But I will go for it if
I mean,
No
somebody else
one
can make it and
volunteers.
then Wrist could assist them. So there is that.
I can't. I have nothing in navigate
Oh,
because
never
it's
mind.
not even a skill I can get. I just get to know the direction of north.
Ouch.
Well,
No fortune point? Okay. Alright, Verve. You feel pretty strong that despite the gloomy forest, which allows sunlight in, but you definitely can't see it at this point, so the sun doesn't act as a guide. You feel pretty okay that you're still heading relatively north. And you continue to move on as a party. Eventually, though, after some more time passes, you move through the forest. You do note that the forest is lively today. You hear the occasional birds and random noises across the forest, and you even see various critters, but nothing alarming or particularly interesting. And eventually, you do come across a notable divot in the ground where roots and grass are unable to grow due to the passage of many creatures. That seems to lead off further east towards the Hager Cribs.
is it like straight east to west?
It winds, but it leads vaguely east. Well, vaguely west to east. It's more like southeast to northwest.
Knowing my background, how far would I have thought, do I think I have traveled?
You would feel fairly confident in about 3-ish miles, maybe a little less.
Alright, I will take the trail.
Which way?
East.
Alright. Y'all start heading up towards the Hagerkrib Peaks, which you can vaguely see between certain holes in the branches from time to time. So you start making your way up the trail, and as it is a game trail, you do occasionally spot the odd deer or something that scatters immediately when y'all get even vaguely close enough to spot it. You usually only catch flashes of creatures fleeing from y'all, because y'all are not exactly the quietest bunch, especially when you're not trying. But over time, you do start to hear a different sound. You start to hear a kind of a rushing sound of something moving over the earth quickly and constantly, like a distant rumbling.
Verve, what's that?
Could be water? Are there any, well, I wouldn't know of any large or medium-sized rivers around here. Could be a waterfall. Does it sound like hooves or anything of that nature, like running feet? Okay.
It's very consistent.
So probably water.
So this is a dead end then?
Is there more trail?
Yeah, there's still more trail. Y'all can keep pushing forwards.
I keep going.
Alright.
It's only a dead end if the river's too wide.
Alright, you make your way further, and the trail starts heading up to into the low hills that lead up to the Hagerkribs proper, and the trail starts getting more steep, and there are certain parts of the trail that are definitely not navigated by humans, because it starts to get a little wild. There's a lot of overgrowth, there are vines, sometimes there's like straight up vertical gaps that you have to figure out ways to cross, and the trail starts getting a little bit harder. Everyone take a endurance check. No bonus, it's just a flat check. Mm-hmm.
I will use a fortune point.
Fortune?
Mm-hmm.
I still fail.
Vertstat, before you commit to that, just remember that a fumbling failure only matters in combat.
Okay, I will still stick with it just because I said so.
Okay. Everyone who is... Roland, were you going to reroll?
Yes.
Okay. A 96 through 100 is bad for normal checks. Okay.
There we go.
Everyone who is... So, Vertstat and Risk gain a fatigue condition as you start sweating profusely and getting worn down by all this physical exertion all of a sudden.
Okay.
Oh, who puts these things up hills and mountains?
The gods when they want to spite you.
I need a flat street. That's what man was meant to walk on. And halflings.
Alright, eventually though, after cresting over another rather steep set of trail, you do come across a stream that basically, you see that when you look to your left, you see it rise up kind of a sheer cliff, and the stream falling down that is what creates that rumbling noises that impacts the ground below, but it basically washes down, and it's a stream, so it's not terribly deep. It's maybe like a foot or 2 feet deep, and it doesn't run particularly wide, maybe only about 4 to 5 feet at its widest. Just pass it on through, but you notice that the trail does continue on past it.
Okay. So there's probably a clearing in between. Well, maybe not. That allows like some sunlight to come like down where the stream is, where there's no trees blocking the way, so I can see the sky.
If you moved over to the actual rock face and maybe climbed up it a little bit, or climbed one of the trees, you could probably get to where you can see the sky reliably.
One other thing I wanted to check. So Roland said that the game trail. So men would have had to have been here. So I want to take a perception check for how recently someone has traveled through.
Okay. Putting your excellent senses to work, from what you can tell, if people have ever been along this road, it's been a really long time since then. You do see some indications. Actually, you know what? With a +6, you see indications that there are people who have passed through here, but the people that did were actually very good at not creating a large disturbance. Like, whoever came through here was fairly gifted at trekking.
Technically, it's a 7, but whatever. How recent were they?
Only a few days ago.
And they're not hoof marks.
No.
Okay. I will continue to lead the way, I guess.
All right, y'all gonna head across the stream?
If that's
Yep.
where Verve is leading.
Okay.
Oh dear.
Halfling, how will you cross the stream? Because this is actually concerningly deep for you.
Could I get a hand?
I will extend my hand.
How
I will
helpful.
hand you my backpack.
I will disappointedly take the backpack.
Alright, you just walk along and I'll grab to your... You have a belt, right?
Sure. So just grab onto my belt? Is that how we're going to do it?
Yeah, I'll just follow along behind you.
Okay.
And don't drop the bag no matter what happens.
All right. You all make your way across the river. At its deepest, there is a good point when Rist essentially just floats behind you, Vertstat. But you make it to the other side with no issues, though all of you have fairly soaked pants, different levels depending on your height, and Rist is thoroughly waterlogged, though his backpack is nice and dry.
Oh, thank goodness.
As you continue down the trail, who of you knows what you're supposed to be looking for next? I'll put it this way. Any of you who explicitly know you're supposed to be looking for a certain kind of rock or something
Yes.
about a certain kind of rock, roll a perception check. Anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about does not get to roll.
Well, hopefully the human can see. Because I used up my awesome roll. Nope.
Let's do fortune again.
That won't be necessary.
Okay.
It's not super difficult to spot. Verve, as you all are walking along, you do after about an hour's walk past the stream, you do spot what looks to be I wouldn't call it like a monolith, but you do see basically a place where the earth slants upwards and the ground has been either pushed away or just blown away, and dirt is fallen off during time to reveal the stone beneath that makes up this part of the mountains if you dig deep enough. And it's eerily in the image of some kind of large bird, like some kind of large eagle creature or warhawk. It kind of reminds you of home almost.
I will smile upon seeing that. And say, so, and the path continues? Or...
It's starting to get very difficult to follow at this point, but you do notice there are
Okay.
other paths leading off in other directions. This seems almost to be a this looking around, it is not difficult to see animal stool and various prints of different sizes in the earth. This looks like it might be a fairly busy intersection.
I look around for any signs of battle or any kind of like disturbed branches, broken branches, stuff of that nature.
Okay. Roll me a perception. Do you want to vocalize or ask for assistance?
Yeah, I'll say to everyone to look around for recently broken branches, anything that would give me a clue on to where we should head next.
Oh, I can look for broken things. That shouldn't be too hard. I will aid you.